Hello, my dear students. I'm Jyoti Dalmia. I am a qualified chartered accountant and have a Big Four experience of law and audit. So let's start with your subject. Okay, if I talk about your subject is corporate and other laws. This is going to be paper number 2 of group 1. Total marks for this subject is going to be 100. And this 100 marks has been divided into 60 plus 40. And how 60 marks has been derived? This 60 marks would be given entirely for the Companies Act portion. And this 40 marks is for other subjects in which institute is basically covering subjects like General Clauses Act, interpretation of statutes, Contract Act, and number 4 is Negotiable Instrument Act. Now, if you see, the majority part is covered here. The majority part is covered for the Companies Act. Why so? Because as a chartered accountant, it is very important for all of us to know each and every section of the Companies Act. An institute has divided Companies Act in such a manner that section 1 to section 148 has been covered at inter-level. Section 1 to section 148 has been covered at inter-level, and section 149 onwards has been covered at CA final syllabus. So now you can see how much Companies Act is important, and as a student you have to study the entire Companies Act, and this has been divided by the institute in this manner. So now let's come on to the next. If I see the pattern, the General Clauses Act, the General Clauses Act, the Interpretation of Statutes, Contract Act, and Negotiable Instruments Act. Institute has given in totality 40 marks to these 4 chapters. And why so? Because Institute just wants to make you aware about the basics of these 4 chapters. So we will be devoting major of our time to the Companies Act, and then we will be doing these chapters later on. But please, as a student, I would as a student to all of you, I would like to say, please, it should not happen that you people do not pay attention to all these chapters, because these are equally important. I do understand that institute has given 60 marks to Companies Act, but it has happened n number of times that institute have asked questions from these chapters, because students do not pay attention to these chapters, so they get stuck into the examination in these chapters. So let's start with Companies Act 2013. So we will be starting our syllabus with Companies Act 2013. Before straight away coming to the Companies Act 2013, I would like to tell you all guys, before 2013 Act, we had 1956 Act. You might have heard about it, that we had Companies Act 1956 before 2013 Act came into the picture. So why there was a need to have a new act when we had this 1956 Act? The reason, my dear friends, is our country has faced, if I say, our country has faced n number of scams, and it was seen that the current Companies Act 1956 is not sufficient, is not enough to prevent all these scams. Let us see the video in which you will come to know which scams have happened in our country and why there was a need to evolve with the Companies Act as well. Just give me a second.
Investors these days look, and what better day to look at how big businessmen have been fooling investors, lenders, and the Indian public at large. Soon after the launch in 2005, liquor baron Vijay Mallya owned Kingfisher Airlines, got into trouble with funds and had to take loan to sustain the business. Eventually, the airline was grounded in 2012. Debt-ridden carrier Kingfisher Airlines has not returned some rupees 9,100 crore to a consortium of banks led by the State Bank of India. This is one of India's biggest corporate frauds. In 2009, CBI charged B. Ramalinga Raju, founder of Satyam Computers, and 9 other suspects with collaborating to inflate revenue, fabricate invoices, falsify accounts, income tax returns, and forging fixed deposit receipts to paint a rosy picture of the company's financials to deceive the public. CBI investigations accounted the fraud to the tune of rupees 14,000 crore. The Securities and Exchange Boards of India, SEBI, has been locked in a legal tussle with Subrata Roy-owned conglomerate Sahara Group over repayment of investor money. SEBI is seeking payment of rupees 47,000 crore. Through what they call chit fund, Sharda Group collected around rupees 200 to 300 billion from investors with promise of high returns for their investments. The company collapsed in April 2013 and the amount investors lost is estimated to be between rupees 2,060 to 2,400 crores. The original scamster Harshad Mehta exploited many loopholes in the financial system. Mehta, an Indian stockbroker, engineered the rise in the BSE stock exchange in 1992. Funds to the tune of over rupees 3,500 crores were diverted from the banking system to various stockbrokers in a series of transactions. The consequences were so serious that BSE remained closed for a month.
Okay, by looking at these scams, I think you all can understand our country has faced n number of scams that was just due to defect, or you can say our legislator was not that much sufficient clauses to curb all these scams, and these are some of the major scams. I have not identified here all the small scams and all the mediocre ones, so you all can understand that there was a need to have a strong legislation so that our country cannot see these big scams. So with this thing in mind, our country has come with one of the strongest new Companies Act that has taken all the measures to stop all these scams. Okay, now let us see how law comes into the country. How law comes into the country. Basically, we all know that we have n number of laws like Companies Act, we have GST, we have Negotiable Instrument Acts. First of all, before jumping on to the direct to our subject, we should all know how a law comes into the country. Basically, a law starts from a bill. If I say, you guys can write it down once I'm done with the entire picture. You can make notes of it and while pausing the lecture and you can note it down. First of all, a bill comes into the country whenever we face a problem. Whenever we face a problem, a bill is being formed by our Ministry of Finance. Ministry of Finance makes a bill. Ministry of Finance recognizes what are the problems that are going in the country and they accordingly make solutions for it in the form of a bill. Then this bill is presented in the parliament. This bill is presented in the parliament. What does the parliament means? Parliament means in both the houses of Lok Sabha and in the Rajya Sabha. Now, you guys must have a question here that why do we need to present a bill in the parliament? When if Ministry of Finance has finalized something, they can directly put it in the country. Then why there is a need to pass it in the parliament? There is a need to pass it in the parliament because we have opposition party here as well. So in order to stop the practice that the governing party do not take any undue advantage for their benefit. So this bill is presented among the opposition party as well, so that they can also give their views on it, and also if the majority of them do not agree, so the same cannot be passed. So the main reason for presenting it to the parliament is so that they can have an opposition party views as well. And also, then the next question comes to your mind would be why the same is passed through a parliament, where it is written that this should be passed in the parliament. The answer is this power of parliament has been derived from the Constitution of India. Our Constitution of India gives power to the parliament, power to both the houses to have a bill to form an act. And once it gets passed from here, it is sent to President of India, and then finally after President of India's consent, this becomes an act. This becomes an act, and then it is notified on the official gazette, and then it is available to all of us in the form of available to all of us. And now onwards it is applicable on all of us. So here you can clearly see how a bill becomes an act. Now I'll write it in a manner so that you can note it down in your notebooks. Please guys, write it. The question is how a bill becomes an act. How a bill becomes an act. Number one, you can form a chart. You can form this chart. This is in draft stage. This is sent to Parliament, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. After getting yes from here, it is sent to President, and once President says yes, it is entered into, it becomes an act, and then it is available on the official gazette and applicable to all of us. I think now you can clearly see how a bill is applicable in the form of an act to all of us. Once it becomes applicable to all of us, and when it is there on the official gazette of India, then you can see all can see these acts on various websites like MCA, like institute's website, because from then onwards it is going to be applicable on all of us. You all can pause the video guys and write this chart in your notebook. Now the next question is, as we have seen, our syllabus is corporate and other laws, right? So the next question that I want to ask you all is, here we have understood in the last slide that how an act comes into the picture, but our syllabus talks about corporate and other laws. So my question is the word law and act different or same? Different or same? Different or same? Please give it a thought and pause the video, and after that when you resume it back, then see the answer. See, these two words are different. These two words are different, not same. The answer is law is equals to act plus rules plus case laws. Act plus rules plus case laws. Now we have seen how an act comes into the picture. Now the question is, what are rules and what are case laws? Rules are basically the supportive documents to the act. Now the next question that can come in your mind is, then why we do not have same in the act? Why to form different rules for it? Because the answer to this question is, we do not want to make our act so heavy. We basically write the main points in the act and then we define, if anywhere it is required, to define a particular definition, to define certain terms or to certain limits, we define the same in the rules. For example, you might have seen in lot of magazines, whenever we read something, we can see that they have schedules as well. In the schedules, if anybody wants to have a deep view about some concept or a particular section of the act, then they can refer the rules and know each and everything about the act. Okay, so we have act and we have rules. Now the question is, who makes the rules? Here the answer is very simple. Our central government makes these rules. It is not passed through any other method. It is not presented in the parliament. It is not presented in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Directly central government makes it. Today, if Modi ji thinks about something, he can directly change a rule that was existing till yesterday, and from tomorrow onwards we can have a different rule. Okay, so central government makes the rules. Next we have is case laws. What are case laws? Whatever verdicts we have in high courts, Supreme Court, any other court, they are called case laws. You might have seen in your foundation level as well that there were some case laws through which, if there is any difficulty in understanding the act, or if act is creating any confusion, then we can refer in that scenario case laws as well. So whatever verdict that High Court judge or Supreme Court judge is going to give, we will consider from that day onwards that it is just equivalent to act. Okay, so basically we can see that as our syllabus is corporate law and other laws, so we have to study the rules, we have to study the act, we have to study the case laws. But do not worry about the fact, because up to inter-level, institute expects more of the act definition from you, as there are not that much rules interpretation in your syllabus. But still, if there is the word law in it, we are still going to do it, because we cannot take chance with your studies. But do not worry guys, we will do it in a very systematic manner, and everything we will do, I'm going to give you reason behind it, so that you need not to remember it, you need not to cram it up, so you can directly correlate it. Okay, so this is the act and how it comes into the picture and what was the problem behind it. So just do not worry about it. Many a times I have seen it that students have this notion about a theory subject that I cannot score good in theory subjects because institute doesn't give marks in these subjects. But this is completely wrong. Please do not believe in such kind of things, because if you know the concept, if you know the law, if you know the objective behind it, and you know how to present it well, I assure you guys, you can score in theory subjects marks as well, and even you can score exemption in these kind of subjects. So just be with the class, be with me. You are going to score very good marks in law, keeping aside all the notions, what you have heard from your seniors, what you have already in your mind. Please just don't Don't believe in all these things. Just attend your classes properly, revise it well at home, and once we are done with the chapter, please read it thoroughly. And if you have any doubts, I'm there for you. You can post your queries on our website. You can post your doubts to me. I'll give all information about me in the coming classes. So just do not worry, guys. So in the next video, we are going to start with the Companies Act. So please be serious now. Study with. I never say it to my students that you have just to study. I always say if you plan your studies well, you will get the time for enjoyment as well. So uh, make your study pattern in such a manner that you have time for enjoyment as well. So just do not worry about it. I'm there with you. So let's wrap up today's class. Goodbye. Take care and see you in next session.